It's another episode of the Gauntlet Podcast. My name is Jason.
Scott.
Dan.
Awesome. Hey, so as always, we're going to start by talking about the games we have been playing recently. It is a lot of games, but it's a lot of repeat games from previous episodes, so we may not have much to say, but we'll see. So Dungeon World, that's a given every week. This week I played 2 things of Dungeon World online. The first one was for our Saturday morning cartoons event that we do over on Gauntlet Hangouts. It was pretty good. It was definitely my least favorite session of all the ones we've done for that so far. I'm finding that there are pitfalls to running games online that I'm learning about, and I definitely ran into one of them on this particular session of Dungeon World. A thing happened in the game to one of the players' characters that I didn't think was a big deal, and I think if it had been like our face-to-face group, I think just because I know our players, I think they would have taken it and kind of like rolled with it and tried to make the best out of the circumstances. But it happened to this one player who wasn't into it. And I was not, because of the medium, I did not pick up on the fact that he wasn't happy with it in time, right? Like I didn't pick up on it. I couldn't like sense it. Whereas if it had been at the table, I would have immediately been like, oh, I can tell you're not into this. Let's just like fix it and do something different, right? But he and I, we talked about it, and I think we understand each other better on it now, and that's awesome. But it's definitely one of these things where it's like, you don't realize how much nonverbal communication happens at the table, like there's a lot of nonverbal communication going on where you can tell based off people's posture or the way they are, like kind of like if they lean back and cross their arms, that kind of thing. Like you can get a good sense that someone's not into something, right? Or they're not with whatever's going on in the fiction. And that's really, really hard to pick up on online. So we kind of came to an agreement that like, we would, all of us, if we weren't happy with a thing that was going on, that we would just speak up, and say like, hey, look, I'm kind of not cool with where this is going in the story. Can we just like change that or do something different? So yeah, it was a learning experience for sure.
Maybe you need one of the real-time like debate trackers that they have on CNN where everybody can just turn a knob to say like how into things they are.
That's a solution, Dan.
It is.
Yeah,
right? I'm here to solve problems. That's what I do.
You're a problem solver.
So someone should build that and make that work.
The other online game I played of Dungeon World was actually just yesterday. One of our community members asked if I would run Dungeon World online for Labor Day. I did. We had a bunch of people. I think it went pretty well. I was happy with it. I had mostly new players, like players I had never played with before. So there was the whole sort of like
getting to know
you. Yes, exactly. That kind of awkwardness. And also several of them had not played Dungeon World either. So the combination of like brand new players who had never played Dungeon World, I decided to kind of make the session very focused on like the basics of Dungeon World, like the dungeon crawling and just kind of getting accustomed to the mechanics. We didn't do a lot of like character development or anything like that. There wasn't a lot of exploration of the characters' backgrounds, mostly because I thought it was going to be a one shot, but also because I felt like there were more, I felt like maybe we should just like master the basics, right? So I think if we continue that one, we didn't finish the dungeon. So if we do one more session of it, I think I will probably kind of go back a little bit and ask the players like more interesting questions about their characters' backgrounds and things like that, like kind of make it a little bit more character focused. But, that said though, it was fun. It was an adventure I've run, before. It was not, I didn't really prep anything new for it, but I think it went okay. And, yeah, I hope we can finish that dungeon up. It was pretty awesome. And so what else do we have on the list here? Let's see. What should we talk about, Dan? Night Witches?
Sure. Let's talk about Night Witches.
Well, so, I'll turn it over to you because you actually took over GMing duties on Night Witches for us as we wrapped up the campaign. How do you think it went?
I don't know. I think it went okay. I think that this might actually be the first time I've ever run a real Apocalypse World hack. Like, not a one-page hack or anything. Like, an actual one with a full book and everything. Because, you've done, like, nano clones, or what was it called? Yeah,
you've done that one.
And, like, World of Dungeons, right? Or Ghost Lines. I've done, like, a little bit of rotating GM stuff on.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think this is the first one that I've ever actually done, like, full sessions and, like, multiple sessions. And, I don't know, it seems like it runs pretty easy. I didn't feel like I had any problems with it.
Yeah, I thought you did great. I mean, everyone had a great time, which I think is as good a, review as you can expect, right? As if everyone enjoyed themselves.
Yeah, I've heard, everyone that comes from that table has said like amazing things about that game.
It's good. It's one of those games where I wish like we all could have played it, right? Like I wish we could have had, like everyone, in the Gauntlet could have experienced it. It is really, really, it's stellar. I mean, we talked about it a lot in previous episodes, so I'm not going to hammer on it, too much here right now, but except to say, in terms of like delivering on its promises, it hits it.
Yeah.
Like it really does. Like,
and I felt like as the GM, a lot of stuff was like out of my hands as far as like, you don't have a choice when things go bad as the GM. Like you don't even have an option to make things better in a lot of cases.
No, you really don't. You're kind of, you have to go with the hard move,
right.
Like you're kind of forced to, it often, it means like killing the characters,
right.
like it's and that's historically appropriate. And I think, it was also interesting because, your characters are very, very like prone to die, like the chances of them dying are very high. And we lost a lot of characters, but it never felt cheap,
right.
Like it always felt like legit, of like
thematically correct.
Yeah. It really did. It felt legit. It felt like, I would definitely be dead right now.
Right.
And, at least I got to tell the story of this person for a little bit.
Right.
That's kind of how it felt.
Yeah.
So.
I've been in games where a character dies and it's just like, well, that's just it. It wasn't add anything to the story.
Yeah, it doesn't add anything to it. Yeah. No, this one is definitely not the case. You get like a nice little, like it feels
heavy.
Yeah, it feels heavy.
Die.
Yeah. It's satisfying. It has a certain sort of like dramatic, satisfaction to it. So, for sure. Night Witches. I will encourage listeners to go listen to episode 24, maybe, where we talked about it. I think.
I don't know.
Maybe 25. Go check it out, though. We talked about Night Witches quite a bit. Next thing is In a Wicked Age, another game we've talked about a fair amount recently. Right now we're just playing campaigns and series games right now in the Gauntlet. We're not doing one-shots. But Scott, you're in that In a Wicked Age game. I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
I played a Wicked Age a couple of times with the group, and I've always loved it. The way that conflict is resolved has always been really interesting to me in that game. The allowing to barter between two people based on the relative risk of what they'll lose is really, really beautiful. And I love Wicked Age. I like the prompts at the beginning of the game that you pull cards for. There is nothing about that game that I can really say that I dislike.
That last session, we've done 3 now in this series, and that last one, the story was so tight and so coherent, and we couldn't have reached that point if we hadn't been engaging those negotiation mechanics in a hard way, right? Like we ended up in this really, really good spot, and the mechanics helped us get there. And I think, in a really challenging game like In a Wicked Age, that's the best you can say about it, right? Like its mechanics got you to the right place, like it was the effort of learning it and mastering it got us to where we needed to be. And, I think it's great. I liked it a lot. Cool. Well then what's next on the list? I played Zombie Cinema.
I also played Zombie Cinema.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah. What'd you think? That was a rough game of Zombie Cinema, wasn't it?
Yeah. I felt like it didn't feel like things were coming very easily ever.
It really didn't. No, it was bad.
Right. It was kind of a lot of scenes felt like pulling teeth to try to figure out where the conflict was and like what was interesting about them.
We fucked up. And you know how we fucked up? It's something that we do sometimes, that we are as a group, as a gaming group, we are prone to do if we're not careful. And sometimes we fall into this trap, which is, I think we went with a setting that was really hard to work in.
That's true. Yeah.
We really did. We decided to do our zombie movie, Scott, in,
colonial New England.
And it was surprisingly difficult to sell a zombie thing in that setting. Like I had a really hard time with it.
So what was the hang up?
I think maybe I don't know enough about that era.
I kind of had the same issue. Yeah. It was hard to make my character feel like authentic and interesting.
Yeah. Was Kristen with you at that table?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh man. She's actually been to Colonial Williamsburg. She would know a lot about that, but if it doesn't come out naturally in play, that it's difficult.
Yeah. There were definitely people at the table who were having an easier time with it, I think, than I was. Like my biggest thing was I'm kind of like, it's that it was the difficulty of the setting, but it's also kind of what Dan just said, which was I was having a really hard time finding the conflict.
Yeah.
I really was.
And the way that game is set up, like you almost always have to get your character ahead at the expense of another character.
Yeah.
And like, I just didn't see why my character would be fucking over everybody else until the very end. I threw everybody under the bus at the end.
I think maybe we should have just done maybe we should have spent more time working out the complications between the characters before we started playing, you know?
Yeah.
I think we didn't spend enough time on that. I mean, so, you know, we've played Zombie Cinema before. And I know you haven't, Dan, but I've played it a couple times before. And it went beautifully those times. Easier settings. You know, one was 1960s classic zombie movie. Well, that's easy, right? And the second one was medieval Europe. Well, fuck, we all play Dungeons and Dragons, so we know the basics of, you know, we watch Game of Thrones. We all know the basics of that, right? And also, like, you know, in the last game we played, the one that was successful that took place in medieval Europe during the plague. We set it up in such a way where it was like the characters were definitely pointed at each other, right? Like conflict was going to happen.
Yeah. And I think that's the big problem is that all of our characters were pretty okay with each other. And I would go into a scene with an idea of like, okay, well, I think I can get like an interesting conflict to occur this way. And I would set up the scene and point it toward this conflict. And I'd be like, well, I think we should do this. And everybody else would be like, all right.
Okay.
I like have my dice in my hand. And I'm like, I feel very strongly we should do this. And everybody's like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So
there was a lot of that.
Everything kind of fizzles, and
it was not so great. But it's not a knock on the game though. Zombie Cinema is pretty awesome. I think people should still go find it. We've had, you know, for me it's 2-1, right? Like two great ones and one not so great one.
Yeah.
So cool. Next thing on the list is tell us about Tokaido, Scott.
Well, Kristen already stole my thunder on this. I think she talked about it before when she was last on.
Not mechanically. She just said kind of like aesthetically.
Oh, well then, excellent. Tokaido is a game where a group of travelers are moving from along the Tokaido Road from Edo to the location that I can no longer remember.
I think it's Kyoto, right?
Kyoto, probably. You choose your character, you move along this road that is mapped out on the board, and you're trying to find the absolute best way of having a good time so that at the end of the trip, you have the most bragging rights. In this game, those are indicated by the number of points that you specifically have. You gain those points by purchasing souvenirs, eating the best meals, taking baths with monkeys and hot springs.
Nice, yes.
And the more you do those things, the more points you get for them. And there's these specific events at the end of the game that you calculate an additional bonus because you've done them the most. It is an absolutely gorgeous game. I love it.
I saw it in the store. It does look really good. Like, it looks really, really good.
I unfortunately love it to a level that has borderline like creepy. Kristen caught me playing it by myself.
Oh, that does sound awkward.
Yeah.
Is your copy sticky?
No, it will be soon if I keep playing it. It's a 3-person game, and I played it by myself, and I, of course, won, but...
That's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah. So. But it is great. I love it.
I don't know if you know, like, board game parlance or whatever. I don't even know if I do, but, like, is it like a worker placement thing, or is it more of a... Like, what's the kind of core mechanic that's going on?
I am not a super well-read board gamer. It's definitely not worker placement because this is all about moving along a board and choosing. Yeah. It's kind of like
Is it like
Go.
set collection?
Set collection, partially. It's kind of like Go, where there's always a most or best move, and you have to figure it out and then predict forward several actions.
Oh, like Puerto Rico. Yeah. Right, Dan? Puerto Rico has that.
Sure, yeah.
Like, there's always like an optimum move.
Yes.
Right?
I've been told that. I just do whatever feels good in Puerto Rico.
And that's why I don't play Puerto Rico with people like you.
And that's part of Tokaido. Like, I could play it to the optimum. I could map out my entire trip based on the logical choices that these people are going to make based on their strengths.
Right.
And try to get the most points. But it's so beautiful that you want the little girl to paint this picture because in the theater of your mind, that is the most pleasurable.
Nice.
My guy would just like go sit in hot springs with monkeys every time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I liked about this is a strange detail to like about the game, but like I said, and I just looked at it in the store, so I don't know much about it, or I don't know too much about it yet. But a detail that I really loved about it is it doesn't just use like the primary colors. You know how like every board game is like you're either the red, blue, yellow, green, or whatever, right?
Sure.
This one has like the colors are like fuchsia, green, orange, like they're really like an interesting color palette going on.
It's very artistic, lots of pastels, but also mixed with very vibrant, bright yellows, reds. It's a mixture of like old style Japanese art with new kind of punky Japanese art.
Okay.
Aesthetically beautiful, just gorgeous.
Cool. Tokaido. Awesome. Okay, let's keep going. How about, okay, so Scott, you've been running Dungeon World, but that's kind of what we're talking about in the main topic. So we'll kind of like skip over that for now. Let me do the last thing on my list and then we'll do Urban Shadows. How does that sound, Dan?
Sure.
Okay. So the last thing, before we get to Urban Shadows is Monsterhearts, a somewhat similar game in a lot of ways. Monsterhearts needs no, setup from me. It is a PBTA game, powered by the Apocalypse game, in which you play teenage monsters who are living out their sexy, messy teenage monster lives, right? We've run it a bunch. I've played it a bunch. We started doing it for Saturday morning cartoons. I think it went really well. I was very happy with it. You know, Dan, you've played my Monsterhearts game. You know that I spent about 2/3 of that first session just doing setup.
Yeah.
And we did the same thing. It's great. I mean, like, if you do a proper setup on Monsterhearts, you end up with just tons of like really wonderful, like organically created, on the spot created like background, right?
Yeah. And it's super fun.
It's really fun. Yeah. And so we've got a great setup. I can't wait to get going into like the full sessions proper. This Saturday is going to be the first one. Liking it a lot. For the Monsterhearts heads out there, the Cuckoo, is a great playbook skin. That's one of the ones that was in, Jackson Tegu's
Second Skins
Kickstarter. Dan's played that in a session, in a series I ran a while back. And now we have, and now Richard's playing it, in the new one. Not my Richard, other Richard. Gauntlet Richard. Yeah. The Cuckoo's awesome. Really, really good. Like, they can basically like put on the clothes, like they put on outfits of other people and can like look like them. Right.
Right.
And so, really, really good skin for like creating like drama. Like, you know,
not creepy at all.
No, yeah, no. That's so good. So good. I love it. Not at all. And then we also have the Neighbor from the Second Skins in our group. And the Neighbor is,
that was the other class I was considering playing when I picked the Cuckoo.
It's really good. It's good. It's got this move. The Neighbor has this move called Mixed Messages, where whenever they're alone with another character, no matter what, if they're alone with another character, they have to decide if they are attracted to them or if they're not attracted to them. If they're attracted to them, they have to explain to the person, even if it's not contextually appropriate, they have to explain to the person why it could never work. Okay. And then that person, and it counts as shutting that person down. If they are not attracted to them, they have to, again, even if it's not contextually appropriate to whatever conversation they're having, they have to explain to that other person how great they are and why somebody else would definitely be into them. Right?
That is beautiful.
Yeah, it's good. But here's the kicker on that last bit. That counts as turning them on.
What? All right.
It's good, right? So the Neighbor is awesome.
So I feel like
it's good.
The more I think about that mechanic, the more I would be concerned that it's really great the first 5 times you do it or so.
We've done it twice.
Then it might start to get a little burdensome.
We've done it twice, and it was like, in the fiction, it was awesome. Like, it was really fun. Like to watch it play out. It was just so like, it's like natural comedy. Like, it's just really, really good, like comedic, thing. They have another move, which we haven't seen yet, but there's another move that, the player Yoshi has taken, called Nap King. And basically, like, they take a nap. Like, just at some point, they just like to take naps. And like, while they took a nap, there's a menu of things they get to pick from, of like things that happened while they were asleep. Like, you know, people coming to look for them, or like some kind of trouble or whatever. Right. So, just a thematically really cool character. He's playing it, the player, he's playing it like kind of like a guy on the swim team, you know, just kind of like this, like goofy, like swim team guy who like just walks around in his like his swimmer parka, you know, and like his like trunks, and that's it. You know, he doesn't wear anything else. You know, he's just always ready for swim practice. It was pretty good. It was a good character.
Yeah. So I think the Neighbor is the one that has, I think, what is my favorite move in any AW game ever, which is the one where you take off your glasses
it's a good one too.
And turn super hot, but
right,
then you actually need your glasses, so you're super clumsy.
Mechanics that add to like the narrative, like in a very like beautiful way, like that. That makes a game just
so good.
Yeah, so good.
I'm liking it a lot so far. All the characters, you know, I've mentioned those too, but all of them have a really good story going on. It's going to be really, I think it's going to be great to see how it shakes out. So I'm pretty pumped about it.
Cool.
Well, that just leaves Urban Shadows. I was kind of hoping, Dan, that we would do a full like review of Urban Shadows in an upcoming episode. So I don't think we need to like dwell on it too much right now, but, I'll set it up. It's basically, it's World of Darkness, but with Apocalypse World rules, right? That's basically it. You know,
yeah.
Urban environment, vampires, werewolves, wizards, vampire hunters, that whole thing. That's a trite way of putting it, but it's true, and it's pretty solid. It's pretty good. What do you think about it so far?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I don't think that I was immediately as grabbed by it as everyone else seemed to be, but I don't know. Maybe that's just because I don't have the background in any World of Darkness stuff.
Yeah,
so maybe it just didn't push those buttons for me that it did for everybody else. It seems like a solid game, but
yeah, I'm liking it a lot so far, but I'm not sure. We've only played like one like full session. We had 2 sessions, but one of them was like the setup session. And so we've only had like one full like 4-hour thing, session of it. And I liked it a lot. I think the mechanics do a good job of pushing you, pushing to the outcomes that the game is trying to hit. It's really interesting because I actually do have a little bit of World of Darkness background, or at least Vampire. I didn't play any of the others. I just played Vampire. And Vampire always just seemed like mechanically like unimportant, right? Like you could just be sitting around talking. Like the mechanics weren't doing anything, right? And in fact, it became a very successful, had a very successful LARP scene come out of it because those people just straight up acknowledged that the mechanics aren't doing much here, right? So let's just LARP. Let's just run around the forest and pretend to be vampires.
As long as we've got capes, we're good to go.
We're good. I'm enjoying it. Like I said, I think we're gonna have more to say about it later. The more experience we get with it. I will say that the one thing that's going to be very challenging for me as the GM is the web gets really complex.
It really does.
Really fast, because you have like so many NPCs in these 4 different factions and then all the connections with the PCs. And I'm doing my best to keep track of it. But there were a couple of moments, like especially towards the end of that last session, where it felt a little bit like, oh wait, now who's that person again? And who are they connected to again? Where we had to like kind of go back and be like, oh yeah, she's the curandera who was the grandmother of such and such, and she owes you this. Got it. Done. Like it was that kind of thing, right?
Right.
So, but I think that just maybe we should start killing more NPCs. I don't know. Just start culling them. I don't know.
Maybe, but then whenever you do your beginning session move, you just make a whole bunch more.
Just more, yeah. So, I think it's going pretty well though. I think like it's, I'm liking a lot about it. The corruption thing is really cool. Like this mechanic where like the more you push it, like the more powerful you get essentially, but it also like hastens your character's demise, which is, that's kind of a neat feature. And I also like the way that you advance is you have to interact with all the other factions.
Right.
Like that's pretty cool. Like I think as otherwise I think there are players who would just like stick to their little comfort zone or whatever and not like try to go out and meet other people in the world, if not for that. So,
though on the other hand, I feel like in a lot of cases that encourages you to go and like deal with the faction that is most mechanically beneficial,
right?
Rather than the one that makes the most sense. Like
there was a little bit of that happening.
We need to find out what these vampires are doing. Let's go ask the pixies.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Because I need to mark that box.
Right.
Awesome.
Exactly.
I think we're going to get better at it and it's going to be great. We'll do a full review of it soon, listeners, but for now, it gets a solid B+ A- from me. So based off, one good session. So cool. Let's go to Giving Me Life. It's Giving Me Life.
What's giving you life?
I don't know yet. I haven't decided on mine yet.
Well, I'm glad you came prepared.
I have what's giving me unlife. It's turning me into a lich.
Great.
But I don't know about giving me life yet, so we'll find out. Why don't you, while I think about mine, why don't you guys do yours? Scott, what's giving you life?
Recently, we've been going to the movie theater a lot for some reason, like every weekend for the past 3 or 4 weekends.
I love going to the theater.
That's why you feel sick. Because movie theaters are cesspools of human filth.
We went to the Dollar Theater on Westheimer.
Especially the Dollar
one.
Theater.
Yeah.
I mean, we went there as a kid, when I was a kid, and it is, they have not changed a thing. It is slowly rotting into a cesspool of radioactive, like, filmography.
Yes.
But I love it. It's so great. Just, here's $2. I'm going to sit here and watch this movie in a seat that is older than I am and smells every day of it.
Yep.
And I'm going to get the concessions are really cheap too. I don't know.
They are, yeah.
It's great. Yeah. But for the past 3 weekends, we've seen 2 weekends, we've seen spy movies. They're these series of spy movies that have come out. They're all based on old TV shows. We saw the new Mission Impossible, which was surprisingly good since I think Tom Cruise is actually the devil.
Those movies, I've always loved them. I have always loved the Mission Impossible movies. They're very, very good.
They all are.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah. And I'm not a Tom Cruise guy. I'm not even an action movie guy, but I really like those Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, I think I've seen all of them at one point or another. No, none of them are my favorite. Some of them I've only seen once, but they all pretty solid.
They're all pretty good. Yeah, they're solid. Yeah.
We saw the Mission Impossible one. We also saw The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which is based on the old TV show, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. There's a English or American, there's a Russian, both of them spies on different sides that have to come together and work to solve this mystery and save the day. It is great. It is really good. Surprisingly good. And I've never been a huge spy person, but that's a great movie and everyone should see it.
Cool.
Right. It's still, both Mission Impossible and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. aren't nearly as good as The Kingsman: Secret Service. That's
an older one, right? Didn't that come out a while
Yeah, that
ago?
one came out maybe like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's great. Funny in all the right ways, trippy in all the right ways, and filled with great gadgets.
Cool. Awesome. Sweet.
So, are we in the middle of some sort of spy movie renaissance?
No, they always just have a moment every now and then.
Okay.
Like every few years, they have like a little moment.
I think they've just run out of ideas, so they're taking everything that they can from the past.
Dredging it back up again.
Yep.
We're going to see like Real Monsters, the movie, and Eek the Cat, the movie.
Oh God. I'm really happy about these spy movies because I haven't seen any of them, but I'm really tired of comic book movies.
I hear you.
Like I'm really tired of them. Like I just am not sure.
Blasphemy.
I can't, like, it was Ant-Man that did it. Ant-Man was shit. That was a fucking shit movie.
Yeah, but you knew it was shit. Like, I haven't seen it. I knew it was shit. Fantastic Four, I took one look at the preview and was like, that does not need to be seen.
I heard that was horrible. I heard that was really, really bad. I don't know. I just need, I think I want like a year off of comic book movies, but I know Hollywood's never going to do that. So
thank God.
You could just not watch them for a year.
Yeah, I know.
It's true.
It's a pretty good option.
That's true. It's a good point.
That's the one I'm currently exploring. It's working out.
Don't watch Ant-Man. It was so bad. Cool. Dan, what's giving you life?
I'm also going to talk about a movie, but my movie came out like 6 months ago because I will never set foot in a movie theater again. Should I mention why?
Yeah.
Because they are cesspits, according to you.
Well, there was a defining moment in my life that made me come to that realization. I'm sure I've told you, Jason, but I went to a movie theater, like a reasonably upscale movie theater at noon on a Sunday to watch the first Avengers movie. I was like, well, this will be good. It'll be a nice, like, mostly empty theater. I can just hang out here. The Avengers had come out like 3 weeks earlier or something. So I was like catching the tail end of it.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the only way I'll go. I even at that point, I wouldn't go into like a full movie theater because,
right.
Oh my God, fuck that noise. Like I would be in there in like a plastic bubble to feel comfortable enough to actually enjoy the movie. But I'm sitting there watching it and all of a sudden there's like a commotion to the side of me, and I look over, and people were like scattering out of the seats.
Oh yeah, you told me the story.
Like, and I'm like, oh no, what's happening? And you hear like liquidy noises coming from that general vicinity, and it sounds like somebody's throwing up or something. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible. And like we all get up, and everybody kind of moves back, and then like the crowd thins out enough to see what's going on, and there is a man, a full-grown adult male human, standing up with his pants down, just pissing over the seats in front of him.
All right. I think that you have the same illness that I have, because on 2 separate occasions, I've had to either drag a person out of a theater or have seen somebody do something just horrible like that. I took Kristen to see the Newsies, and a gentleman sat in front of us that had not been there for more than 75% of the play, and he starts talking to the people next to him in a language that doesn't exist on this plane of reality. And I go get an usher because he's like screaming no and like just tongues all over the place. And I go get an usher, and it's this little old grandma. She like tries to take him away down the stairs because he's obviously not supposed to be here and is probably having like an overdose.
Right. Yeah.
Flings him down the stairs.
Whoa.
And immediately I'm like, I'm just not going to get in on that. Like I felt bad because she's tiny. He just got thrown down a flight of stairs. I'm like, I'm not getting involved in this. And that's when all of the other ushers that have been like in a 15-foot radius like rush in and like, oh God, we're going to be sued. Like that's what it took to get like proper handling of that.
But anyway,
so what was your movie?
Bearing all of that in mind, I only watch movies if they come to the like drive-in movie theater or if I can rent them one over the internet. So Unfriended finally came out to a point where it's rentable online.
I want to see that one.
It's a horror movie where you're watching the entire thing on a laptop screen. And so it's a bunch of teens on Skype calls and IMing each other and all of this about one of their friends had gotten cyberbullied and committed suicide. And so it's like the anniversary of her death or something. And they're all on this Skype call and talking. And then so they start getting murdered one by one by like this mysterious person who they can't kick out of the call, but who has no icon.
Scary.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, it's real stupid, but in a lot of other ways, it actually works pretty well because you get really interesting moments. Like they do cool things where since you're watching one particular character's screen the whole time, you can see like the thing she types in and doesn't send. So she'll like type something in an IM window and then erase it and like change what she's going to type and put something else. So you can sort of like see her inner thoughts as the movie's progressing. And, it makes me intensely uncomfortable to watch someone else use a computer. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
What the fuck does that mean?
Like, I don't like watching people use computers. Because like
touching the keys.
No. This isn't like a weird germ hang up that I have. This is just like a weird sociological hang up.
This is a very interesting psychology thing going
on
here.
Yeah, I'm laying myself bare right now.
I'm really enjoying this. Yeah.
So I don't know. It feels super invasive, right? And there's parts of this where it's like they're about to start having cyber sex or whatever, and you're like watching it, and it's super uncomfortable to just be like watching these people in this intimate moment.
Right.
And like that comes across really well. But then there's minor things that's like, why would you right click and use the menu to cut and then paste? Just use the keyboard commands. What's wrong with you? You're killing me. So, like the movie itself had some moments that were kind of uncomfortable, but it all like that also was there the whole time, like layered on top, just amping up my levels of discomfort.
Wow.
So like, I don't know that it was super enjoyable, but it was really effective because at all moments I was on edge and watching this movie. So, Unfriended, it's pretty okay.
Wow. Okay. Awesome.
It's gimmicky, but kind of cool.
Yeah. Cool.
That is a movie that I will never see.
Why?
Because like, have you ever seen Devil? Where they're trapped in an elevator with the devil?
Yeah. That's a good movie.
Like, I could
Wait,
not...
is that the M. Night Shyamalan
presented
thing?
by M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay.
And one of them's the devil.
One of them is
but
the
you
devil.
Don't know which.
And
I never saw it, but I always guessed that it was the elevator that was the devil.
Yeah, no.
Don't tell me if I'm wrong.
It's so
that's what
bad I don't even remember. But
it was the old woman. So.
Oh, God damn it, Jason.
I need major scene changes in order to keep my attention, basically. And just like watching a monitor. Like I need for them to get out in the field and be chased and do the trip that I love so much. And then the murderer is just like walking.
I mean, in this, you've got like IM windows popping up and the scenes are changing that you're seeing through the screen because everybody's on a laptop. So a lot of people at certain points will like grab their laptop and run. So in the window, you see like the view from their laptop as they're freaking out and running around.
Oh, that sounds much better. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
What's giving you life, Jason?
Well, I don't think anything is giving me life.
That's super sad.
Well, I'm coming off of sickness. And, so I'm just not really like, I'm not really just, I'm not having life right now.
Well, okay.
I do want to talk about Three Forged though. So Three Forged is that contest. We had Paul, the organizer of the contest on a few weeks ago on the podcast. So the idea was, you submit a game of a certain length and then some other person gets your game and they add word count to it. And then a third person gets it, all anonymous. There's a whole judging thing and somebody wins. And today, all of the games, as of the day of this recording anyway, all of the games, that made it through all three stages were released. And I have mixed feelings about it. So on the one hand, I actually do have this like game design bug now, you know, I was very happy with my stage 1 game. I then started having ideas for other games and, Dan and I even started collaborating on a game and, which I think we'll be ready to present to the people, in maybe in a few weeks or something. So I've got this game design bug and I don't know if I would have that if it wasn't for Three Forged.
I feel like I definitely wouldn't.
Yeah. So to that extent, I think it was a really, really helpful contest and I'm glad I participated because it kind of put that fire under me.
Right.
The reason why I have mixed feelings is my stage 2 and my stage 3 game were basically fucking unplayable. Okay. Like the ones that I got, like they were not playable. And that's okay. They weren't supposed to be necessarily, right? The stage 2 one was very, very difficult. And I had to spend a lot of time making it into something that I would want to play. And then the stage 3 game, that was much closer to being a complete game. But I just wasn't particularly interested in it. And so I have no emotional investment in it. But I did the work. I did my best to increase the word count and make it into something that I'd want to play. And so I did all that work, and I'm a little irritated that at some point in the process, my stage 1 game did not get finished by the guy who had it. And so
that sucks.
It sucks. Yeah. And so it's like we all entered this contest, like taking on the obligation of finishing or working on 2 other people's games, whether it was going to be a pleasant thing or not, we were going to do it, you know?
Right.
And it kind of pisses me off because that person who didn't finish my game, their game might be one that did get all the way through, and it might even win, you know, like who knows, you know? So I feel a little like kind of, just like a little irritated by that, you know, and, you know, I'm sure that person has 1 or 2 redeeming qualities.
That is a lie.
They probably have 1 or 2 redeeming qualities, you know, as far as, you know, they don't deserve to be dead, but, I don't know. I think it's kind of shitty. I think it's a shitty thing to do. So I think it's a shitty thing to do. I think if you're going to participate in something like this, you should fucking fulfill your obligations to it and do it. And, if you're one of those people who didn't do it, you should feel ashamed. So those are my thoughts on it.
We shame you.
We shame you. Shame. We should just have like 45 seconds where we just say shame. Like,
did you bring your giant bell
no,
to
I did
ring?
not. No, I did not. No, whatever. I mean, you know, things happen. I mean, I get it. Like, you know, maybe the guy's dog died or something. Whatever. I don't know. But it's just kind of a bummer. Like, because everybody else, you know, not everybody else, but like most other people today were like, you know, oh, I got my stage 3 game, and oh, I can't believe what they did to it, or oh, I love what they did to it, or oh, it doesn't look anything like it did. But they're getting that process.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm not getting that process.
Christmas is canceled.
Yeah, Christmas is canceled for me, and it really, really bugs me. And so, I have to wonder, you know, looking back on the contest, what do you think is gained by the anonymity, Dan?
I don't know. I think that at the end of the process, I think it's good that it was anonymous, because you can't just go like, well, I'm going to go read what Jason Morningstar did and then I'm out, right?
Right, yeah.
So you actually, like, if you're going to participate in the judging, like in the voting, it's good, I think, that it's anonymous. But I mean, I don't know, during the participation, during the actual writing itself, would it have hurt to know who the other people were? I don't know, maybe not, but
yeah,
maybe so, on the other hand, because if I got a game that I didn't understand, but I knew who wrote it, I could be like, hey, yo, what's this supposed to be? Whereas in this case, like, I have no idea who wrote this thing. Like, it's just up to me to interpret it and take what I can out of it. So I don't know. I think in that way, it's probably good. I think I prefer anonymity.
Yeah, see, I don't know. My feeling on it was, while I was doing it, like, so for the stage 3 game was more or less a complete game. And it wasn't something that I was particularly interested in. Like, the theme wasn't very interesting to me, but it was a game, and I could see people enjoying it, right? Like, maybe it wasn't my cup of tea, but I could see. But the problem was there was a lot of context missing, and all I needed was, I just needed to be able to ask like 2 or 3 questions to the previous people.
But doesn't that defeat the purpose of the game? Because it's, in the end, you could have easily just deleted everything that they did.
I ultimately did, yeah.
And just rewrite it from the beginning. So it's supposed to be 3 individual persons' artistic vision kind of like smashed together.
Right. And but uncorrupted by mingling with each other.
But I think that's kind of not what happened, though. Like, if you look at the chatter on G+, a lot of people, I'm one of them, a lot of people just deleted everything they were given and wrote something different, you know? So like, it wasn't really like a collaboration. It was, okay, here's your idea. I can't work with that. I'll keep this sentence and then delete the rest and then submit a thing. I know lots of people I talked to who that's what they did, right? It wasn't just me.
Sure.
And so it wasn't really like collaborative at that point, right? It was just a person making a judgment on your game and deciding they don't want to fucking work with it and then doing something different. Like, so I'm not sure, like, you know, for the stage 3 game especially, I would have been very, very helped by just being able to ask the original designers, or at least the stage 2 person, like, I'm not sure what's happening on screen right now. Like, I'm not sure what is, like, I see you have a game here, but I'm having a hard time just even conceptualizing what this is supposed to be about.
Right.
So can you just please answer this question for me? And that will help me clarify it for other people. So what I had to do instead was try to interpret what I thought it was about and then just kind of rework it a little bit. And so I'm not sure, if the exercise was supposed to be a collaborative exercise, like, is the collaboration supposed to be afterwards? Like, is that where the collaboration comes in? Because it wasn't really collaborative during.
To a point, but I would say that, like, your view is not the intended one. Like, your Three Forged experience was not the intended one. I feel like mine was, minus the fact that my stage 2 game disappeared. Whatever. But I felt like what I got at each stage was enough that I could add to it without butchering it. And like, I feel like I left intact the majority of what I got coming in. So I didn't have to do any like giant rewrites or anything. And like my stage 1 game, it went off in a direction that I wouldn't have chosen to do. Like, it kind of amplified things that were like just kind of throwaway things in my first draft. But I mean, I could still find plenty of sentences that I'd written, you know, and like the themes were still kind of there for the most part. So like, I feel like I did get that like, disjointed sort of collaboration that was intended. So I mean, I think a lot of it just has to do with luck of the draw, like, what you get.
I think I just had an optimum experience.
Yeah, I think
in the contest. Yeah, and so you know, it sucks, but whatever. So Three Forged, it is what it is. I don't know if I'll do it again. Honestly.
Well, I think that if you do it again, you should have 3 games that you already want to make set up so that every time, like, you submit your first. You get the second one, you submit your second one. That is your game. And that way, like, there's no collaboration. You win.
You win all 3 times.
Right.
Yeah. No, I just, I wanted it to be a different experience, I think. And it's, you know, I mean, I think it was an interesting contest, like I said, and I do give it a lot of credit for making me think about wanting to actually design games, but, I don't know. I have really, really strong mixed feelings about it. So anyway, that's what's not giving me life. It's giving me life of a sort, I guess. I don't know. Cool. Let's go to the next segment. So today we wanted to talk about GMing. Scott, who has joined us today on the podcast, has been GMing some games of Dungeon World and also Carcosa, which is Dungeon Planet, but same deal. And I really wanted to get Scott's kind of take on how it went. And because Scott is new to GMing games. And that's fair, right?
Oh, very new.
Yeah, new to GMing games, new to role-playing games. Well, that's not totally fair. A couple years into role-playing games, right? We say you're new to role-playing games, but like relative to Dan and I, but you have in fact probably already played more role-playing games than most people ever will in their entire lives. So that's just by virtue of being in the gauntlet. So, but nevertheless, you know, temporally speaking, relatively new to RPGs. So yeah, GMing. So I'm just kind of big picture, Scott, like you've run 3 different short campaigns now, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think they went?
Progressively better is probably the most fair way to put that.
That's the number one goal, right?
Yeah, to get better with every go.
Until you switch to Hangouts and then you get worse. like me. So
you switch your modus operandi and everything falls apart.
Yeah, I can't wait till we do the evil cultists like sacrificing family members and shit game
on Hangouts. Yeah,
that'll be
awesome.
good.
That'll be great. No, I'm serious. Like for the people who've been playing games with me on Hangouts, like you have no idea. I'm so much better in person. Like I'm so much fucking. I'm glad you're all still coming, but I am like 100 times better in person than I am on Hangouts. I'm trying to get better. I really am. Like I'm trying to avoid pitfalls like the one I mentioned earlier. Like I'm trying to get better at it, but I end those sessions and I know, and you know, I'm an old dog, right? When it comes to this sort of thing. And I step away from those Hangout sessions and I'm like, oh, fuck, I could have done that better. Like there are 100 things I could have done better than that. So
it's just a stopgap till VR, and then it's going to be just like we're at the table again. So you just have to suffer through like 1 or 2 years of it.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good. Like you felt like they were getting better. That's awesome. So sorry, continue. So yeah,
I think the hardest part of starting off as a GM is that, well, at least for me, is that I didn't have a strong background in fantasy role-playing games.
Right, yeah.
So I didn't have that wealth of knowledge. While I have played many sessions of Dungeon World, that still only gives you a glimpse of what there is in the world. Like people like you, And
I just do the same 5 things all the time. So,
right.
Yeah.
People that come from like D&D, they know those worlds. They've spent many, many hours in those worlds, finding things, learning things. I don't have that. I'm, for the most part, making stuff up.
Right.
And while I am a master of making shit up, it only takes you so far. And it eventually.
Well, can you give us an example of how you're like, how you not knowing, not having that archive of D&D, fantasy gaming knowledge, like how it, like an example of when that came up?
Well, there were a couple of instances. The most like damaging for me, when I was starting my Dungeon World game on the Wednesday nights, there was an individual named Calloway that had like just joined us, and he wanted to play a kobold.
Blast him, Scott.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Calloway, if you're listening,
We're putting people on blast today.
I hold no grudges, but I've wanted
Calloway, Three Forged, all of it. Blast.
You're an asshole. I don't know. That's about as blasty as I get. No, like, I didn't spend enough time with him to know
fine.
him.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah.
I don't know anything about him. But he wanted to play a kobold, and I had no idea what a kobold was. Like, no idea. I was like, I know that they're short, and that's about it. And I had to like stop and go, all right, tell me about a kobold.
Well, and that makes sense because I've never had a kobold
in
our games. So so you wouldn't know. Yeah.
Like the only reason I know anything about a kobold is because I believe there's a Kobold Quest game, which is related to Goblin Quest.
Right.
Yes,
so for me, kobolds are just goblins that look different.
That's not.
I mean, that's pretty true.
Close.
Yeah.
Like,
they're draconic. They're like little draconic.
Yeah,
guys.
I've looked it up. They're little fake dragons.
Although in second ed, for all the second ed people, they were dogs.
Right.
In
And they were
second
better
ed.
as
They're like
dogs,
little
honestly.
yippy dogs.
Yeah, I came across that. Why? I don't like it. Just
They look like pugs. They look like little pugs. They did. Yeah.
But like that level of ignorance made it very hard for me to be able to add things to his story because I had no idea what he was capable of.
Yeah.
You know what? You want a good hint for that? You say, we're playing Dungeon World, only humans.
There are no kobolds. Sorry.
Right. No elves, no dwarves, just humans.
You would hate the current session. Of
Dan. Sorry. So I mentioned that we played Dungeon World last night for Labor Day night. Labor night. Yeah.
Sure.
The party was, you ready for it?
All right.
Elf Ranger,
Okay. Good.
Dwarf Cleric,
Nice.
Dwarf Fighter,
All right.
Human Wizard,
Okay.
and there was one more, like the total, like, what was it? They were all like really, really tropey though.
Yeah, that is
It was
solid
like
tropes.
solid
Yeah.
tropes. Yeah. And Halfling Thief. Sorry. I don't know what we were talking about. Yeah. So like blind spots as far as like not having that archive of D&D information. The kobold, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's just, there's a lot of things that I don't know about, like beyond a, what were they called? The gelatin cubes?
The gelatinous cubes.
The gelatinous
yes.
cubes.
Just the fact you call them gelatin cubes is
Gelatin-
very, yeah.
Like I don't, like it's not, because I haven't done it enough, I don't have that like index in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's a thing that happened. Let me store that somewhere in the back.
Exactly. Yeah.
So everything that I like come up with in the game is all forward brain, meaning that I just make shit up.
Right. Yeah.
Or things that I found really, really interesting. Like I managed to shove a bone golem into our last session.
Good. Yeah.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
That sounded cool. But I think that I started off with Carcosa, which
Right. Yeah.
so it's Dungeon World, which I thought like I've got this. I played plenty of Dungeon
yeah.
World. I love H.P. Lovecraft. I read them when I was like a teenager, so I've got a basic idea of what's going on. I read up on it. Just the familiarity with the world that the players had was something I completely did not expect, and it made it extremely difficult to like get these people on the same page. And because I'm a person that enjoys I like my world to be nice and deep. I planned way far ahead and had a world that was extremely complex. And just as Kristen said in one of the podcasts before, it was impossible to do anything. Like
that complexity works against you. You know, this is something that we have mentioned on the podcast before. And for me, it's a truism, which is the more ornate you get with your setting, the more difficult it is for the players to translate that into good play.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really, really hard. And that's why I always say it kind of jokingly, like, oh, I like the tropes, you know, give me the half elf rangers, give me the halfling thieves. But there's a kernel of practical truth there, which is the reason why those things work is because people understand them.
Right.
And they can then be more comfortable and able to like create their own fiction, right? Like we're all starting with a nice baseline that everyone understands. So Carcosa is hard. I mean, Carcosa is a challenging setting under any circumstances, and I imagine especially so if it's your first thing you're running. Right. Yeah.
So I ran into it like a toddler running into a brick wall, totally unprepared, but super optimistic.
Yes.
Just like, this is going to be my friend. Boom. And, it was hard. It was very hard. Like, I felt very frustrated. And I'm a super overachiever when it comes to things that I like. Yeah. So I even made my own character skins, which only one person played.
Yeah.
Wow.
And while I knew everything that was on their sheets, I hadn't played Dungeon Planet before, so I didn't know shit about the other characters.
Yeah.
Thank God I decided to make all of the people that actually live on Carcosa, the Carcosians. Like, you could only pick like the basic Dungeon World ones. Like, they were going to be like a barbarian, a fighter.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, stick with the tropes on these, but I didn't have the background knowledge, and I was way overreaching.
That's interesting.
And we had difficulties. Carcosa was really hard in a number of different ways. Not once in a row did I have the same people. Every single session.
That wasn't something you could control, though. I mean, I think like being a more experienced GM you can roll with those punches easier, I think, but that was not. Yeah, you got really slammed in that way.
Yeah, and the first session we had, I like to set up I want everyone to have some sort of relation, but half the people were supposed to come from an off-world to a new world, so there was no way that they have any sort of like bond. So I'm trying to slam these people together. Just like I want to hold their heads together and just kiss. And it's just not happening.
Well, so what would you do differently? Like, now that you've got, probably 16 or so sessions under your belt. I'm curious, like, what have you learned, and what do you think you would do differently, for the next series that you run?
If we had gone back in time, I would have started with something that I'm very familiar with. Like, I wouldn't have gone with Carcosa. I would have gone with the tropes. I would have gone with basic Dungeon World, something that I've played a lot. And I would have removed things that were overly complicated. Like, I've never played a wizard, and I've always disliked the wizard. I don't think the original version of the wizard's any good.
It's not that great. Yeah.
Yeah. So just take it out. Put in the mage. The mage is much better. If I had the knowledge that I have now then, I would have played more to people's strengths. I would have made it simpler. There's a lot of people in our group that they're not really in it for the background character. They want to show up. They want to hear a story. They want to roll dice.
Yeah, we do. We've got a lot of those. Yeah. How do you feel about how did you feel about managing? Because you had big groups all those times too. How did you feel about managing the group? Because it gets really hard. 4 players, totally doable. You add that 5th player, it gets way more complex, right? And and a 6th is even more so. And you suddenly have to, how did you feel about managing spotlight time at the table? How'd you handle it, and how'd you feel about how that went?
At the games that we played, I had 2 people that were super quarterbackers. They wanted to shine, and I wanted them to shine, but I needed them to I ended up having to cut them off and be like, we're going to cut back to that. You're in the middle of your speech. Great. What are you doing? I'm going
to smash cut in the middle of your soliloquy right now to go to this next person.
Man, I love what you're doing. I'm going to let you finish, but first let's go to X. And it's hard because we also had a bunch of new players at the most recent one that had never played Dungeon World before.
Right, yeah.
So they wanted the spotlight, but they didn't know how the mechanics worked.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of questions as well. But if you set up a flow early and don't let them deviate, just go around the table, left to right, go in the circle, get everyone a chance, give them 1 or 2 actions. If they start asking you a bunch of questions, be like, all right, cool, put it on pause, go to the next person, because he knows what he's going to do. And you have to know the people that are at the table. The teacher training that I have makes me want to set up a seating chart. It's no, you can't sit next to him because we'll be in this hemisphere of the table for 40 minutes on your one move trying to unlock this one door. It's difficult trying to pace everyone.
Knowing your players, that's an interesting observation. And I'm experiencing that a lot myself. Like I said, I've been GMing games forever, and whenever I'm involved in games, I'm almost always the GM. And if there's a GM role to be had, and I still can learn things. There's still a lot of things to learn. And one of the things I'm learning about running games on Hangouts is, I game with you guys so much and so much and so frequently and regularly, the same core group of about 12 people or so, right? In different combinations. And I know you guys, right? I know if I do this, you're going to do this. I know how you're going to respond to this. I know when I need to pull the camera over to you and pull the camera over to you. I know that this person is a little bit shy, and so they don't need as much spotlight time as everybody else does, right? I understand I understand all that. That's hard to do online with brand new people. It is so, it's fun. I mean, I'm enjoying learning these new people. But, there's definitely it's hard, and I feel vulnerable, I feel personally vulnerable as a GM because I feel somewhat responsible for everyone's fun.
Right.
And I feel really, really vulnerable when I don't have that table mastery. And then you add the extra layer of not being physically present with them, and it just adds another layer of vulnerability.
It cranks up that insecurity to 11.
It really does. Yeah, it really, really does. To the point where I finish up those games, the Saturday morning cartoons games, and I just pour over in my brain nonstop, every single moment in the session. And I think, oh, I could have done this differently. I should have done that differently. I should have done that. You just start having those
yeah, and I've got
those conversations,
but in person, because you've done this.
Yeah, in person with a group of people I know, easy. Well, is there anything else you want to say about just your experiences as far as running games anew? The very, very interesting insight about not having that archive of fantasy gaming stuff. That's a thing that's really easy to take for granted. Mm-hmm. It's really super easy to take for granted. So, there's no, but playing is all you can do, reading books is all you can do. There's
play.
There's kind of no getting around it.
And feedback. I've learned that humility and knowing somebody at the table that is willing to tell you exactly how they felt and what they thought, giving you a different perspective, ask them.
Yeah.
That can be hard, especially for a person that is a bit of a control freak. You don't want to trust what they're saying. You don't want to hear it. You need to hear it. You need to ask somebody. If you're brand new, ask a player at the table. Don't ask them all. Ask one that you trust to give you a straight answer. And it's invaluable.
That's awesome. That's great. That's really cool. Dan, you haven't said much. I don't know if you have anything you want to add, but except to say that you haven't run many games either, right?
So I don't like to GM. I just don't.
Right,
I run GM-less games.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I just don't really love having to do all the directing and all that. I'll do it if there's a game I want to play that I don't think anybody else is going to want to run. But like I said, Night Witches is the first time I ran an AW hack because anytime there's an AW game I wanted to play, I'd be like, Jason. Yeah,
hey, I usually run it. Yeah. It's,
given the choice, I don't really have a whole lot of, I don't know. I don't get any more out of running a game than I do out of playing a well-run game.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. So one more question, Scott. You've been in a lot of my games and so I'm curious, did you guys do anything different than the way I do it that you thought worked well?
Because I had run 2 Dungeon World campaigns outside of the Gauntlet, way in the past.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I ran it with my oldest friend and his new wife and my wife, at the time girlfriend, and I made them build characters, deep background. I want to know where you're from, what you did, who you loved, why'd they die, how did you come together. I wanted their backstory to
I like that solid. The death of their loved ones was not optional.
Not optional. When did your mother die? That was
Did you cry much?
Yeah, I believe it was. So the race of hunters that came into your camp and slaughtered your family that changed into dogs and they wore your family's skins. How did that make you feel? That's a question that I asked. That was not optional. This is what's happening that would give you the impetus to be here. So, but building up that backstory is something that we don't generally do. And
not in Dungeon World.
Right.
Yeah. It should be pointed out that that's all we do in the beginning of Monsterhearts or this Urban Shadows game, right? What we've done.
And in those sessions, because I was playing with those individuals, beautiful.
Okay,
those are probably because I played those and ran those so well, it gave me I could totally do this with our group. totally different people. Half the people at the table don't give a shit about the backstory. So I'm like, so what's your guys' relationship? Tell me about your character. They're like, he's an elf, he's tall, he has ears. What can I shoot in the face? And I'm like, you had a chance to be beautiful.
I love
threw
it.
it away.
I love it. I love it. You know, the thing is like Dungeon World, I've always treated differently from the other Apocalypse World games in that I don't dwell too much on backstory. You know, I really don't. I certainly dwell on it more than I did in like, say, that game last night, which we did almost none. But I had different goals in that session. I was mostly just like, oh my God, there's a bunch of people I've never played with and they don't know how to play this game necessarily. So I've got to get through that first, you know? So I kind of had like a different goal. And it was also like a one shot. So I was kind of mostly just like wanting to plow through the dungeon. I always wonder if people would like to do more of like a character development thing in the beginning of Dungeon World, but I don't know. The moves don't point in that direction to me.
No.
They really don't. Like the moves are, hack and slash.
In
spout
which way
lore.
are you best at killing things?
Yeah, defy danger, which is just like dodging and shit. Like, you know, like there's, the moves are so like, this is a game about dungeon crawling. And it's one like social backstory mechanic, the bonds, I fucking hate. Mm-hmm. So I just don't know if that's what I want out of Dungeon World, but I'm glad you've had some experience. Like I know that you like that aspect of like character build, you know, like that's a thing that, and I like it too in other settings, I think, but just maybe not.
I like it better in things that aren't Dungeon World because in Dungeon World, if I don't know anything about your guy, then I don't have any problem murdering things next to him. But as soon as I learn that he's got a demon homunculus or something, then that's more shit I got to deal with. So.
Yeah. No, I think I just have different goals when I play Dungeon World than I do with other games. So, okay, cool. Well, I wanted to talk about, maybe to kind of switch to like a sort of best practices type conversation.
All right.
Does that sound good? And so I have, three, what I consider to be my three best tips for quality GMing. And I don't mean just like, these are not like, you know, how to make everybody feel like, you know, part of the group or how to like, not like, you know, manage like social situations at the table. It's not that kind of advice. These are hardcore. You want your game to be fucking amazing and you want people to come back week after week after week after week after week and with a wait list week after week after week like I have.
The shoes just get bigger and bigger in my mind.
You do these things. Okay. Bronze tip. It's gold, silver, and bronze. Bronze tip. Smash cut. Okay. Kind of like we were talking about earlier. You must smash cut. You must let somebody do a thing and then the moment like, you know, let some stuff happen and then cut and go to the next people and then go back to that thing later. Like just keep moving around the table. Keep the spotlight moving around the table. There is nothing worse than when you like stop and you just like do this one guy's whole goddamn scene away from the rest of the table, just sitting there. You know, like it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. Like because, and that's where being at the table in face to face is really helpful because you can get a good sense of like, oh, the energy's getting low. Like I feel the energy dipping a little bit.
Bring it back around.
Need to go ahead and cut this scene, or at least cut away from it for a minute. Go over to the next guy and let them, you know, Rob's over here getting ready to jump across the table because he's got so much energy and he can't wait to get going. I need to go ahead and smash cut over to Rob before he kills someone, right? Like that is, smash cutting is super important. That's my bronze tip. Silver tip. I don't even know what my silver tip is. I can't read it. Oh yeah. Ask lots of questions. Okay. I don't do this in Dungeon World, but I do it in every other game. And I do a little bit in Dungeon World, but not too much. You should ask loads and loads of questions of the players at all times. This is great advice from lots of different Apocalypse World games that I've incorporated into pretty much every game I run now that's not Dungeon World, which is, you know, ask lots of good questions of the players about their character's background. Ask them things that are, ask leading questions, like don't go with some weak shit like, oh, in Monsterhearts, tell me what your character did last summer. That's a weak fucking question. Better is, tell me about the relationship you had with Scott and why it went south. Even better, tell me about the time last summer when you were in Scott's pickup truck and you left crying, what happened? Right? Like, keep drilling down on the question.
Awkward face that you can't see.
Keep drilling down on the question so that, and make it a good, juicy question that they have to answer, and they can't help but give you something, right? They give you something to work with. And then you keep asking those questions and you reincorporate those questions constantly, right? Like, you go back, especially after, in between sessions, and you think about, like, okay, what can I do with that information that the players gave me how can I reinsert that information into the next session so that, it feels alive for them and it feels like they're getting like a gift, right? Like in the story. So asking tons of questions, super, super important. And then my gold tip is actually 3 things. So 3 tips within 1 tip. It's something I've practiced for ages. It's a combination of advice from various sources that I've kind of combined into one thing. And I call it 731. Okay. 731. 7. This comes mostly from Dogs in the Vineyard. I've incorporated this into my general prep, which is come up with 7 encounters, 7 NPCs, 7 locations, or a grand total of 7, some combination of 7 things for the session that you can kind of airdrop in anywhere for your players, have it ready to go. And what that's going to do is it's going to help, like, if your characters zig and you thought they were going to zag, you've got something. You can grab one of your 7 and throw it in front of them. And it feels like you were ready for everything, right? Like, it lets you run almost like a sandbox, right? 7 is a great number because that's about as many different things as can happen in a normal session, So
sure. Yeah.
And probably far less than that. So as long as you've got 7, you're good to go. 731. So 3. This comes from Jared Sorensen, Jared Sorensen's rule of 3. I've incorporated in my 731, which is, you give 3 descriptive details at all times. So if the characters are walking into the school dance, describe how, give 3 details, like what song is playing, right? What do the lights look like above? And, what does it smell like in the room? Like, give a little bit of description. They're in a dungeon corridor, just 3 things, there's like slime on the walls and it smells like seawater and it's very, very cold. Just 3 little things, 3 details about any character they encounter, any place they walk into. You just need 3 things and it makes it come alive, and anybody can think of 3 things, right? You just work those 3 little details in and the players' minds will do the rest. Okay. Yeah.
Mind, like, blown. I have a really bad habit of actually, like, over describing things because I want them to get an idea of what I'm seeing in my head. But just stop. 3. Just do 3.
3 things, and the players will do the rest. They'll do the rest of it, and that's it. And then 731. The 1 is the hardest one for me playing games online. I'm having a really difficult time in incorporating this habit of mine into an online game. But basically, for every NPC that you have, and I think I got this from Jankcast. I think Jankcast talked about this once and I thought it was really great. And I started doing it more consciously. For every NPC, you give them 1 like trait that you express at the table. So maybe their body is a certain way, so you twist your body up in a certain manner, or you, like, whenever you talk, you stretch your arms out in a certain way or whatever, right? Or, maybe you have like a certain inflection of voice, or maybe just maybe a manner of speech. Maybe there's a word they repeat over and over again. Maybe they talk really loud all the time. You just give them you have 1 little thing that you work into your role play that you express at the table, and the character comes alive, right? 1 thing is all you need. And so that's my 731. Like, 731 alone will make your games so fucking awesome. So do it, listeners. Do it.
Cool.
Or don't do it. I don't know. Do whatever the fuck you want. Just have your game be shitty. I don't care. Whatever. Do whatever you want.
People love shit. They'll play it.
Shit. True. Yeah. Just do whatever shit you want to do. I don't give a fuck.
Just go down to the Pathfinder Society and run your games.
Yeah, just do it. Do whatever you want.
Read it out of a notebook.
No one cares. Awesome. Hey, that's all I wanted to say about that. Dan, do you have any tips?
Run GM-less games.
That's actually the best advice.
That's a
honestly.
brilliant tip.
That is the best advice.
It turns out there's a lot of them, and they're really good, and it lets everyone be involved to the same degree.
Yeah. And not one person is responsible for everything either.
Right.
Yeah. Not that one person ever is responsible, but it kind of becomes that way. Yeah.
I've wasted all my life. All right. If I had 3 tips,
What are your
one
tips?
would be to learn to tap dance. The 731 is great. You can come planned with a certain amount of information in your head that you are like, we're going to do probably about this tonight. Every single time we have played, they have thrown that out the window in about 5 minutes.
They do that. Yeah.
So you need to be able to tap dance. You need to be able to like, this is getting off track. Catch yourself. Don't lose the rhythm and don't let them go cold.
Mm-hmm.
2, learn to read a motherfucker.
Yeah.
The thing that's helped me the absolute most is being able to look at a person and tell how they felt about something, how they are expecting to move next, just from the way that they're sitting, the tone of their voice. Read them, know them, and, build your world around what that specific character is hoping to do. And 3rd, come prepared. Even though I just said learn to tap dance and learn to read people, come with something to the game that you already have in your head. Because making stuff up will only take you so far.
Awesome. Let's go to community feedback. It's time for community feedback. So, for community feedback today, we wanted to follow up a little bit on the conversation we just had. We asked community members to submit their single best GMing tips on G+. Some people don't know how to read and conform to the instructions of your single best GM tip. But that's okay. They gave us multiple single best GM tips. They're not getting read. So for breaking the rules, they're not getting read.
Best by definition means one. There can only be one.
and also single best. Yeah, well, that's true. Maybe it's redundant, but
apparently not redundant enough.
Exactly. Apparently not. But there were some good ones. So let's go and read some of those. Listener Andy actually submitted a fairly lengthy post. It's a good one where he's basically says, like, be honest with players, be honest with the world that you're creating, and be honest with yourself. I wanted to read that last bit about being honest with yourself because I think it's a good one. It's particularly good advice. He says, be honest with yourself. You know when you're fudging the rules, and you have to hold yourself accountable because you're the only person who will. You also know that sometimes you have no idea what to do, and that's when you tell players you need a moment to think. You know your strengths and your weaknesses, and you know what your ideas about running games are. Use this as an asset. I like that. And I would even add to it, it's okay to ask the players what they think about things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like in an Apocalypse World game, it's even explicit in the rules for most of them. If you're not sure what should happen next, turn to one of the other players and say, hey, will you frame this scene?
Right.
Frame a scene. You frame it up. You say what's going on. You get to be GM right now.
Right.
It's okay to not have all the answers. And that's hard.
And you can do that without being quite so meta, too. I mean, you can just say, what's your character doing?
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, in Monsterhearts, it actually says explicitly, like, scene, like it talks about scene framing duties, like pretty specifically, and that you should share them with the players and stuff. Yeah. But I think Andy's advice is good though, because, you should acknowledge that you don't have all the answers necessarily, but you do have, but you're smart enough to know when to like stop and assess and think about how a thing should go. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And every mistake I've ever made in running a game, it's always been because I just keep barreling forward. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Without taking a moment to like actually like stop and consider what's happening. So
yeah. And nobody's going to notice, like nobody's going to think about it. Like when they're thinking back in the game, they're not going to be like, whoa, I really wish Jason had said something 30 seconds earlier that one time.
Yeah.
They're going to notice if you have to like retcon 10 minutes of stuff.
Now,
right?
I do actually do this. Like I'll do this. I don't know if my players have ever picked up on it or whatever, but whenever I get up to go to the bathroom randomly, it's always because I'm thinking about what to do next. It's always because it's like, oh, I didn't see this coming. Hey guys, I'm gonna go run to the restroom real quick.
I noticed you did that twice, like almost back to back in Urban Shadows because on Sunday.
I was thinking of what to do. I will. A well-timed bathroom break can get you, can earn you a lot of, it's like, what do you do in Baron Munchausen? You clear your voice and
say, take a sip of your
take a sip. Yeah. Hey, you want to read the next one from listener Marshall and game designer Marshall?
Marshall Miller says, even if the game is designed around around playing a long campaign, focus on running one session, one fun session, and see what happens after that. And I think that is super solid advice.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think that was one of the things, like, back when I ran old school games, I would have, like, a shitload of, like, I have, like, a campaign arc planned out, right? And I would spend so much time planning my campaign arc. Most of the time, we would never even start playing.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It's a little hard for us because of the way we schedule, because we plan out so far in advance, you know, but, as a general matter, I think it's good advice though. Yeah. Like if you're just having an idea to run a series of games, like try out, you know, focus on doing one good
Well, and I mean,
one.
what he's saying is that, you know, even if, like in our case, we'll have 4 sessions of something on the schedule 2 months in advance, but like when you're prepping for it, prep for the first session, right?
Great. Cool. Scott, would you like to read co-host Kristen, listener Kristen, co-host Kristen, wife Kristen's contribution?
Don't entertain/enable the game breakers overly literal or obscenely detail-oriented. Inevitably, new game groups find themselves with a person who wants to argue every tiny point, manipulate every word of speech in the DM's descriptions, or every word of text on their characters' sheets, and in general slow things down to a snail's pace so they can show how clever they are. Shut them down early. As much as they are annoying you, they are annoying the other players just as much, if not more, and the experience of the group is more important than the glee of a troll. That is definitely my beautiful wife's teacher experience. You need to set a hard line, and you need to walk that line. And any deviation allows trolls and people that are trying to make themselves the center of attention or just be annoying, it gives them free license.
Well, and we know that she sponsors or supervises her high school groups games. And I imagine there's a lot more of that. In that setting.
The younger you get, the harder it is to keep people from like really jacking with things, especially those kids, because they're all GT. They're all gifted and talented.
You know, early in my gaming days, I dealt with a lot of that, like players who want to like go over every rule and like point out every single goddamn thing and like really, really, do that. I think that's a product of immaturity, frankly. I haven't had to deal with that in years. And whenever it occasionally happens in the gauntlet, those people don't last. Like they don't last. Like they last one session and then they're out of there. Right. So, but no, it's a good point though. I mean, if you are in an environment, I mean, my God, like just be an adult. I mean, Jesus Christ, you know, like we're all adults. Like just be an adult. Don't put up with, God, you don't have to put up with that bullshit. You do not have to put up with these rules lawyers. Like that's, God. But
some people feel really safe inside those rules. Gotta break them.
You really do. I agree. you really do. Break the fuck out of them.
I love it. It's like boot camp.
Yeah.
It's true.
Break them down and rebuild them into story gamers.
Exactly. I agreed. Hey, Dan, why don't you read the one from listener Ryan?
Hey, Jason. I don't know where that is. Hey, there it is. Ryan Poe says, be willing and ready to discard everything and anything that you have planned. Let the character's story develop organically from everyone's input, and it will almost always turn out more interesting for both you and the players.
Agreed. 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Some games are better at facilitating that than others, I think. But the types of games we play, yeah, for sure. 100%. Dungeons and Dragons, maybe not so much. Pathfinder, maybe not so much.
No, that's still the same.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than sitting there and like listening to the GM tell you his story for 4 hours.
Yeah,
so
no, that's true.
That is applicable in all game settings.
Fair enough. And I think listener David said something similar, correct?
Yes.
He says, tell the story of the players and don't worry about telling your story. Make an interesting open-ended world, have generally where you want the players to go, but then let it be about them and how they overcome whatever danger finds them. Don't be afraid to kill them, but don't make it your goal either. That's an interesting little addendum to that. Don't be afraid to kill them.
Yeah, I would have left that part out myself.
Yeah.
But
I feel like those are two different thoughts. But
game dependent, maybe, on that last one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm just going to like murder your raccoon dog in Golden Sky Stories. So
let's do listener Sean's comment. Now, Sean, I've played games with Sean. He's a really cool guy. I don't agree with his tip here. And I'm sure he won't mind me disagreeing. But I'm going to read it anyway. He says, the one thing I would say is that I would tend towards recommending to only use the rules as a guideline. Many systems even go so far as to call that out specifically. If something is overcomplicated or in some capacity ruining your fun, ditch it. Along these lines, you also need to pay attention to the table. If the players are drifting off and aren't engaged, you might need to adjust what you're doing to reel them back in. I agree with that last bit.
The second part is good.
Yeah. I agree with the last bit 100%. That first bit, I don't agree with.
Let me quote listener Andy about this, a previous part of his contribution, which says one of his tips is to be honest with the mechanics. And he says, don't ignore the dice, don't ignore the mechanics. They exist for a reason. Know when you can and can't make stuff up on the fly, because most good systems do have room for you to improvise mechanics, and understand how the mechanics work. If the results seem unpalatable, stop and think about different ways to use the result to inform the game going forward.
That is the right approach, I think. I'm down with the spirit of what Sean is saying. I totally am.
Right.
You definitely, don't be
promote
slavish.
The rules at the expense of fun.
Yeah. Don't be slavish to it.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day, make sure you're having fun. But I think just like gaming philosophically speaking, that's a bit of an OSR thought that he's expressed there, I feel like, which is maybe not my thought, which is that the rules are just a list of procedures that you can discard as you wish. That may be too hard. That's probably too strong. It's probably not what Sean is saying, but it has the feel of that a little bit. So, but hopefully I hope he's not here to defend his positions. I feel bad about that, but he won't mind letting me have it on G+, and he definitely should. So.
A point of contention. I'm going to stick up for Sean for a second there. In a game of Dungeon World that I was running most recently, we had a bout of just the shittiest rolls I've ever seen. And I fudged the rules a little bit so that I wouldn't have to kill them. Like, I had a plan, and the rule, like Snake Eyes, back to back to back. And like, the idea is that the consequences should match the amount of failure.
Oh, that's not true, but...
You don't think? Okay,
no.
so...
A six is just as good as a 2. I mean...
Oh, right, that's true. But the idea was that because this person had put themselves in a situation and rolled poorly so many times...
Right, I think
that would
you're talking about like sequential failure.
The snowballing.
Right.
The snowballing,
like,
sure, yeah.
The idea would be that something truly tragically bad should happen right here, but because they were at a point where it would not help the story move further along, just hand wave it. He rolled something like Discern Realities and failed terribly, and the wall should have come crashing down on his head, and I was just like, you don't see shit. Move on.
But that's still within the rules.
It's within the rules.
Yeah.
And Dungeon World pro tip, you lean back in your seat as the GM.
But not too far away from the microphone.
Sorry. I'm like physically leaning back. You lean back in your seat and you look at your notes for a minute. You take your pencil, you make a little mark, just a little mark. It doesn't have to be shit. You make a little mark and you say, you guys aren't going to like this when it happens. And then that's it. Off-screen badness. And maybe it is something off-screen badness, but you can also just fudge it. And, and that way, they think, oh shit, what the fuck did we just do? What the fuck just happened? But, and it doesn't,
The checkmark is a point of dread.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's an OSR tip right there.
Yeah.
That's an OSR thing. I'll steal that from the OSR. I don't mind. It's a good advice. I mean, sometimes you can't, they've just had 3 failures in a row and they probably should be dead. Sometimes you can't just do that, especially if it's only an hour in, you got 2 more hours to go. You can't fucking kill their character, right? So, you just, you do a Grim Portent, right? And maybe you do a Grim Portent for real. Like maybe you just, it's an off-screen Grim Portent, and that's okay. That's within the rules.
Unless you're playing Night Witches, in which case you have no choice if all the characters die halfway through. Then you're just like, why don't we just hang out for an hour?
That is a true. That's a true statement. Okay, well, so finally, let's do. I wanted to end on listener Rob's. I assume he's listener Rob. I think he is. This is not dead Rob. Listener Rob says, just relax. Just because you're the one, quote, running the game, you're not such a big deal. Well, I mean, I'm kidding. You're not such a big deal. It's everyone's responsibility to come to the table and have a good time. It's going to happen. Even if your first session isn't the best one you've got in you, everybody's going to appreciate you did some of the prep and organizing and got your friends around the table in the first place. It's going to be fine. Easier said than done, listener Rob, but I'm with you in spirit on that, for sure. Like I've said numerous times on the podcast, I'm beating myself up over these online games, until I master it. But sure. It's all good. We're all here to have fun. So,
and I think that's easier the more comfortable you are with like the specific people you're going to be playing with, right? Like I worry much less about running games for like you guys than I would running public games.
We went to a con or something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, this has been a great episode. Listeners, if you would like to continue the conversation with us or disagree with anything we've said, you should go to Google Plus and look for the community section of Google Plus and search for The Gauntlet. And we will pop up. you should join our community and say hi. We also have a Hangouts community that's been mentioned 100 times this episode. We have a Hangouts community where we run games, sometimes awfully, but we're doing our best. It's called Gauntlet Hangouts. It is also a community on G+, so go check that out. That's all I've got. Thank you so much, Scott, for sharing your insights.
As always, a pleasure.
Dan, thank you so much for the editing job you're going to be doing this week on this one, because I think there's going to be a little bit to do. I salute you, sir. And that's it. So you guys have a great week, and we'll be back soon.
Yeah, I'm expecting a lot of that when I run Soth.
Soth, yeah.
Because that seems like, for a diceless game, which also uses dice, by the way, might I point out that you use dice in this diceless game. I was like, well, this will be a perfect game to play over Hangouts because nobody will have to worry about rolling dice. But you fucking roll dice. Like, there are several parts in the text where he's like, and if you can't decide, just roll a die. Motherfucker, I don't even own any die. I gave all my dice away because you promised me I could play this game without them. Right. Yeah.